All right. So as you can tell from my accent, I'm not from here. I sound like Arnold, but I'm not from Austria either. I'm from Germany. Came over here about 20, exactly actually 25 years ago, and to finish my college degree, to get a master's degree. And in that college, I met my wife, and who is also an immigrant. She's from Honduras, Central America, and we wanted to give that relationship a chance. And so we decided to, if we can, to stay in the country. So we looked and looked and looked and looked and looked, find jobs, and to make a long story so short, through that job, it took 5.5 years to get a green card. But halfway through there, we became very disillusioned by the job, and we started to look for something else. And ultimately, we came to a conclusion that real estate is the right thing. We looked at all kinds of other business models, but that was 100% traveling. Any kind of brick and mortar would have not worked. Any kind of, we tried like network marketing, and we're just not cut out for that. It's just not our thing. And it's allowed. My brother does fantastic with network marketing, but it's just not me. I buy his products and I'm live happily ever after and consume them. But other than that, it's good. And then we through real estate, and really through failing in real estate, we failed at a house, wholesaling a house, because we didn't know how to estimate repairs. Like, coming from another country, not only is real estate a different language, because they talk about drywall and 2x4s and 2x6s and HVAC and thing, and it's like, what does this all stuff mean? I mean, like, I came with English to this country, but I had just learned business English. I had just learned standard day-to-day English, and now I needed to add another dictionary to my vocabulary of like that stuff, and so no clue what to estimate. So we underestimated everything, and nobody wanted to buy a house that we put under contract. And we tried tax liens, and we bought some liens, and everyone redeemed them right away, and we made no money. And ultimately, though, we stumbled into what we call land flipping, which is really land wholesaling and land flipping with seller financing without actually fixing anything, without doing anything to the land. And when you deal with land, particularly if you get it cheap, and if you just put in a contract for 20 cents on the dollar, and then you turn around and wholesale it for 50 cents on the dollar, you can 2.5 times your money, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times your money, and without touching the property, without having to estimate repairs, without having to talk to contractors, without having to talk to banks, without even having money lined up, because we didn't buy those properties. We just put them under contract and then assigned the contract, or did a double closing that somebody else bought it. So we really figured out that this is the simplification of real estate. We can actually do that without having to know how much it costs to fix a kitchen, without knowing how much it costs to repair a foundation or a roof or plumbing or electric and all those kind of things. If all we needed to do is figure out how to value a property, and that's actually pretty simple, because now, particularly nowadays, when you have Zillow and all these websites actually give you comparables. So you want to flip a 2-acre property on the outskirts of town. There's 10 other 2-acre properties that sold for $75,000. Guess what? Yours is worth $75,000.
Yeah.
So you make a $25,000 offer, which is about a third of market value, and then you go sell it for $60,000 or $55,000 and make a $30,000 profit. I mean, that's about it, right? It's obviously there's steps involved, and there's some work involved. I'm not making this look like it's too good to be true, but compared to houses, it's like 10 times simpler than house flipping.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, and that was a lot to unpack for an intro, and I want to hit on all of them. First thing is kudos on Germany. I'm only 25% German, but I don't know where you are in relevance to Perleberg, Germany, but that's, I guess, where my ancestry was
which
from.
town?
Perleberg, Germany?
I don't know that town, but there's like thousands of small towns and obviously dozens of large towns.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I guess that's where the lineage came from. I don't know.
All right.
There's a town named after my last name too. That's awesome.
Is there?
Wedl? Yeah, Wedl is definitely a Bavarian last name. I'm sorry. When I heard that, that's why I was like, okay, am I talking to a German person? Because Natasha Wedl is like
my married
Munich
name.
right there.
That's actually my married name. My maiden name is Wertheimer. So Wertheimer.
Okay. Yeah, that's very German too.
Man, a lot of lineage going back there. So you're not originally from Germany though, right? You said you moved there for university?
No, I'm from Germany. I'm born and raised in
Okay.
Germany. When I was 5 years old, or 3 years old, I lived in Argentina for a few years. My dad's a high school teacher, and he accepted the teaching job over there. So as a family, we went to Argentina. But I was born in Germany at the age 3.5. I went to Argentina at age 8.5. Went back to Germany. So I speak Spanish, but from 8.5 to age 27, I lived in Germany. And then so full through college career, job, and everything. And then I just wanted to add a master's, and got the opportunity to do that in the United States. And then I just got stayed here. Decided to
Nice.
come here. I'd never been here before, and now I'm here 25 years already. I'm 52 now.
Nice. And what part of the US are you in now?
I'm in the Phoenix, Arizona area.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
That is a fun area to be. That's for sure.
Yes.
Phoenix
Well
has gotten
done.
so much bigger.
Yeah. And particularly right now, particularly in winter. So we're enduring these brutal summers.
Yep.
But it's okay because you can jump in the pool, right? It's still better. A summer in Phoenix is still better than a winter in Chicago.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
That would be accurate.
So, and a winter in Phoenix is better than a winter almost anywhere in the world. So therefore, It's pretty good here.
Yeah, we had a couple guys that played on my college baseball team, and they came in. They're from the West Coast, and they're like, "Winter is the best season. It's 60 degrees. You can play outside all day." And then they played Midwest spring baseball, where the first couple weekends are getting snowed out, and they quickly did not like winter anymore until they went home.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we like to say winter is a choice.
Yes, it is. I think they should just build a huge bubble over the Midwest and just keep the snow out. And then the other part I wanted to go into was the MLM multi-level marketing thing. I tried that too early on in my career. For me, it wasn't for me either. I'm kind of like you. I would buy products from people, but I wouldn't run it. But in terms of starting an entrepreneur venture, I do think it has a little bit of grounds to it because you are building your own book of business, kind of like a sales role. It's not your own company, but you're in a sales role where you have to develop your
I do agree with you on that. Yeah, for example, I mean, even though I had an MBA and my wife has an MBA too, it doesn't teach you how to run a business.
Yes,
an MBA makes you like, I was a finance major, so it allows you to understand financial statements. I got the financial statements of our company now right here, right? So I know what to highlight and what to look at and things like that. So that's good. That's a good thing. So a business degree helps you in business because it teaches you the terminology and it teaches you to understand certain things and think a certain way, but it definitely doesn't teach you how to run a business. It doesn't do any of that. It doesn't teach you sales. It doesn't teach you how to build a business. It doesn't teach you how to hustle. It doesn't teach you how to stay fiscally prudent. It doesn't teach you how to become profitable. It doesn't teach you any of that stuff. And so the MLM, the network marketing part, was actually quite interesting because it put us out of our comfort zone, and it indeed taught us some overall business principles. So I do not regret going into it. I just realized it wasn't the right thing for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you hit on the head. It falls short on some of the things of what owning your own independent business would be. I mean, you don't control the business. You are buying into a brand of somebody else's, and you're basically a salesperson.
And more often than not, sometime down the road, they completely screw up their brand, and then all your work goes down the drain, and you jump ship. And I've seen my brother have to do that 3 or 4 times already. Once he built this up to a 6-figure income, and then and all of a sudden something happens and they change everything, and his company goes down the drain, and now he has to rebuild it with a different company again and again. That's not something I want to do, because you're not really running a business. You're a salesperson. You're basically a glorified salesperson. Nothing wrong with that, because sales is the #1 skill that I think anyone needs to build. If you never want to go hungry in life, build sales skills.
Yes, and that was one big thing that I did take from the MLM, was the sales approach to it. The one thing I did fall short was, like you had mentioned, it doesn't give you the full scope of running your business. It doesn't give you the full freedom of running your business. And 2, I felt like it kind of, I don't know, almost it handcuffed you in a way where even if you wanted to make a change, you can't. You're stuck to that form, that process, what they want you to do, and as well as the product. And if you can't jump behind your product, like you are passionate about land.
Yes.
I was never passionate about any of the MLM stuff I did, which is
Yeah.
probably why I wasn't motivated to do it. But when I
Right.
found real estate, like that was a different engine that turned on.
Yeah.
Which I kind of feel like you found through your land.
Yeah.
Which
I heard somebody say the other day that procrastination is not something you should be fighting. It's something you should be listening to.
yeah,
Because procrastination basically tells you that you are doing something that you don't like doing.
yeah,
Because otherwise, if you would love doing it, there wouldn't be any procrastination.
right.
You would jump right on it.
Yeah.
So, and I realized that when we did that or other things in life or in the job and so on, there's procrastination. Oh, do I have to do this? Okay, well, let me push it out as far as possible. Well, with land flipping, with real estate, I get up in the 6 a.m. and I'm giddy. I'm excited. And I've been doing this for 20 years and I'm still excited about it. Right. So,
Yeah.
so I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And so find something is the thing to the audience here. So find something that you can be giddy about it, that you can be excited about it. And it doesn't have to be your purpose in life. People talk about find your purpose. Well, that's something really, really hard to find. What do I know of my purpose? I didn't wake up and think land is my purpose. No, we stumbled into it and it was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. I love chasing a deal. I love that adrenaline when the deal closes, when I got another offer accepted, when I got an offer sold, when I make $50,000 on a deal, when I make $100,000 on a deal. I love that challenge of getting that done. I love the business challenge. I love the fact that I never have to see these properties and I can do this from home. I love that I can design my life around me, but I still love the chase of the thrill of the chase, and all those things. So yeah, I'm never going to get tired of it.
Yeah. No, and it's such a cool, fascinating world of just land, no residence, nothing on it, just bare land. And there was a short time when I got into real estate that I was listening to podcasts and someone was on trailer parks, and everybody is thinking like, oh, trailer parks, they're trashy, they're dirty, they're run down. Some of these trailer parks are like perfectly managed and they're kept up. And the people that own the trailer parks, this is what I learned. They don't own the trailers. They rent the lots out. So all they have to worry about is the land, like the maintenance,
Right.
either roads or grass, wastewater, and water and electric. Yeah. Other than that, they don't even pay those. They just have to make sure that they're connected to the units. Every tenant pays that. And they're saying, my asset is the land. So there's nothing that's going to change with my asset that I've bought. Everybody else is in charge of their part, but I own the land, which I thought was great. There's no maintenance for them. They don't have to worry about a roof leaking or a door falling off or a water leak in a trailer. That's not them.
Yeah.
It's like you're just in land. And I think that's such a safe, secure investment vehicle for it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes.
And you're the first land wholesaler that we've had on the show, and only like the second one I've ever heard of. So it is such a small subsect of the real estate market. So can you go, who did you listen to that was like, I flip land? Or who got you into just looking at land other than houses?
So back then when we started, there was really, there probably was, as we then discovered, there probably were about 10 people in the country doing land flipping at any kind of level of scale. There are always going to be people that find a deal and then sell it. Sure. House flippers that come across a piece of land and make money accidentally with it. Yeah. But dedicated land flippers, there weren't very many out there. So, and none of them was teaching this. So we didn't really have anyone teach us for that matter. So instead, what we did is we actually stumbled in it by first looking into what we call tax delinquent real estate. I'm sorry, I just was down a few weeks ago with COVID and wasn't powerful. It was just a flu.
No worries.
And since then I have a little cough left over. That always happens when I get sick. I always have afterwards for 3-4 weeks. I'm having a little lingering cough. So my apologies for that. So
oh, no worries. You're right.
But so we stumbled into this by going into tax liens and tax deeds. Because first of all, coming from another country, the entire concept that somebody does not want their property to such a degree that they're willing to just let that property go to a tax lien sale and a tax lien foreclosure or a tax deed sale where there's an auction. It just blew our minds, because both in Honduras and in Germany, nobody would ever do that. Like, people would like, no, it just doesn't, it's inconceivable that somebody just gives this up. The Germans are pretty tightwads. They're like when something costs, if their bill is 50 cents off, they're going to call the waiter and make sure it's right. So the fact that nobody would in their wildest dream would let go of a $50,000 property just because they inherited it and they don't want it. I mean, plus it's a small country. They could just sit in the car and drive the 6 hours to go see the property, talk to somebody there. Yet the United States is different. The United States is a 2,000 miles wide. It takes 2-3 days to drive from one side to the other. It's expensive to fly from one side to the other. And so there's lots and lots of people who have had properties for many, many decades or have heirs of properties and just they don't want it anymore. Or they bought 2 lots, and one, let's say, in Florida, and one, let's say, in, I don't know, in Oregon, and they decided to move to Oregon and retire in Oregon, and the property in Florida, it's a beautiful lot and a beautiful development, but it just sits there empty, and they're like, we didn't pay much for it. Who cares? I just don't want to pay those property taxes anymore. I don't want to just be constantly getting those notifications from the county or the city that the grass is too high, that the fence fell over, that I need to fix it. I just want to it's a hassle. I just want to get rid of it and things like that. So these people let these properties go for tax sale. It's not like, does it really exist or not? No, every year, Merrill Lynch did a study. It says that, or Goldman Sachs, I'm sorry, did a study that said that showed that every year, $5 billion worth of real estate goes to tax sale. 5 billion.
Wow.
That's a big number. It's right. So what does it have to do with land flipping? Well, what it has to do with it that we started going into land flipping, and no, we started going to real estate. And after not being able to wholesale a house, it was like, well, how about tax liens, tax deeds? So we attended some tax deed auctions. We had $3,000. We found the only thing we could afford to bid on was a couple of pieces of land that had a minimum bid of $1,000. And Michelle, my wife, she went out to California. It was in California. She flew out there. She attended the auction. Within minutes, these lots were $25,000. So she came back with the tail between her legs. We couldn't buy anything. It's just we were outbid left and right. But then one day we had a thought, and that thought was the following. I looked a little bit deeper into the rules of tax lien investing and tax deed investing, and I realized that in a state like California, it takes 6 years before a property even comes up for tax auction. So in other words, the properties that are coming up in 2023, let's say, are properties where the person stopped paying property taxes in 2017. So sometime in 2017, that person decided, you know what, screw it, I don't want this property anymore. So now we ask ourselves the question is like, why in the world do we need to wait 6 years before we can buy this property? And after 6 years, this property is worth 6 years worth of back taxes, 6 years worth of penalties and fees and anything and interest accrued. And the back taxes might be $10,000 on a $30,000 lot. And now the county advertises it and 300 people show up and bid that thing up to $30,000 to full market value. However, what if we can get a hold of that person right now? I mean, right now it still would have $10,000 in back taxes. Well, what if I could get a hold of the people who right now decide to let go of their properties and stop paying property taxes? Their properties are going to come up in 2029. Yeah. Right? But right now, if I can figure out who these people are, what if I send them a letter directly and see, hey, if they may change their mind, if they basically made up their mind that they no longer want these properties, wouldn't they be willing to give those properties to us for pennies on the dollar?
Yeah.
Now that was the hypothesis, right? So then we went and tested it. So we went to the county, we got a list of everyone that owed property taxes. And then with the mailing address, back then it wasn't available on any kind of online resources. You had to go to the county, and we sent them a letter. And once we sent them a letter, we got responses like crazy. We didn't just target land though. We targeted everyone that hadn't paid property taxes, which was lots of houses. None of the house owners called us back, but all of the landowners called us back. And all of a sudden, we got like 20 phone calls of landowners. It was like, well, crap, what do we do with land? We don't know. But again, we figured out what it's worth based on comparables. And then we just made the first deal was worth like $8,000 to $10,000. And we made him a $400 offer because we talked to the guy. And the guy's like, I'm going through a divorce. I'm sick and tired of it. I wanted to build a house out there. I no longer want to do that. I just, anything having to do with the state is like, I have a negative association with it. I just want to get rid of everything and start clean in a different state. It's like, okay, well, how much do you want the property? He's like, I don't care, just offer me something. We're like, okay, we offered him $400, and he said yes. And he netted like $100 because $300 was back taxes. So he netted $100, $300 was back taxes, and then some closing costs. And then we went to the property. We put a sign on the property, and the neighbor immediately, right on the spot, came out of the house. The guy on the spot bought it from us for $4,000. Now it's not a slam dunk deal, but it's a 10x profit.
Yeah.
And we're like, what did we do to this property? Nothing. In this particular time, we actually went to the property. We put a sign on it. We saw the property, but now we've done 4,500 land flips, and we haven't seen a property since 2006 because it's all done from home. I don't care. We have students now. We now teach this. We have students that living on a big island in Hawaii and do deals in multiple states of the mainland and never leave Hawaii. You don't have to go ever see the property. We got students that do this from Germany. We got one student that we have dozens of students, but one in particular does 300 deals a year in the US, and he has been doing deals since COVID. And during COVID, he couldn't even get into the country. So again, we figured this out, but then the thing is, then from there we expanded to non-delinquent properties, because very quickly we realized that if we stick to tax delinquent properties, we only have very small market because there's only so many. A county might only have 500 tax delinquent properties. So we can pick up, and of those might be only 50 of them might be land. So we might be able to pick 2-3 lots up from that, but then we're done. And then a year later, we might pick up another 2-3 lots. We didn't want to just do 2-3 deals a county. We wanted to do hundreds of deals. So then we realized, actually, another thing we realized that by the time we actually sent them a letter, half of the people had already paid their back taxes. So it wasn't that necessarily that they didn't want their property at all anymore. They were just sick and tired and kind of like grudgingly paid the back taxes. Okay, let me pay it one more year. But overall, they just were what we call non-wanters. They just didn't want these properties anymore. And then we realized that amongst the people who pay property taxes every year, there is tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in the US that are almost at that point, but they just still pay it. So we don't just have to focus on tax delinquent one. Now we can just get a list of land in a certain price range with a few criteria, and then just go and send them a letter. And you get, if you hit the right county, there's some better and some worse counties, but if you hit the right county, you can get a 5, 6, even a 10% response rate sometimes on these letters. On one letter, not a series of 25 letters like the house flippers do, but on one letter, you might get a 5 to 3, 4, 5, and in an extreme case, a 10% response rate. So you send out 2,000 letters, you might get 100 to 200 responses back, and on average, we pick up a property for every 25 offers we make.
Wow.
That's a good ratio.
It's 4 to 8 deals out of 2,000 letters. And then our average profit is around $15,000. So you make, awesome. you send out 2,000 letters, it's going to cost you about, let's say, $1,500. You send them first class and so on, might cost you $1,500. But then you get 4 to 8 deals out of that, with each deal making $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So on the low end, that's $60,000. On the high end, that's $120,000. And I always ask my students, how many times would you like to put $1,500 in a system and get between $60,000 and $120,000 out? And I mean, obviously, the answer is like every day,
every time,
right? All the time, right? So yeah, that's how we came across it. Was kind of a trial and error process, a couple of questions, analysis, and then ultimately it's like, oh my God, let's just like, first we went up to tax delinquent people, and then from there we went after non-delinquent, and now we don't focus on tax delinquent at all anymore. They're in the pool anyway. Because if you sent a letter to basically every landowner that falls into your criteria, about 3% of them are tax delinquent anyway, and they're going to respond anyway. So we're still including them, but we don't individually separate them out.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And the hardest thing for newbies in real estate is getting over the fear of asking. So when you send out these mailers, you're pretty much asking everybody like, hey, sell me your stuff.
Yeah,
sell me your house, sell me your land.
It's what we call a neutral letter. Our standard way is, there's 2 ways to go about that. Our standard way is to send a letter that requests them to call us back, because we want to get a touch on them. We got to get a pulse. We want to see, hey, how motivated is that person? Because every once in a while you come across somebody who basically says what that first seller told us. It's like, I don't want it, I don't care. You can have it if you want. And they're like, okay, well, how about I give you still $50? It's like, sure, send me $50. I'm good. I don't care, right? Now, typically these properties are not worth $1 million, right? To be fair, they're probably the lower end properties worth $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 or so, but they're still willing to do that, to give them for obviously almost nothing. And sometimes they say, no, I want $150,000, and you do the value analysis and it's only worth 80. Then we just ignore their request and we make them an offer for 20, and you'll be surprised. Sometimes they were bluffing and they still accept. So, but yeah, these, so we sent that letter and we want them to call us back. And then once they call us back, and we don't take those phone calls ourselves, actually, you can have a voicemail. At the beginning we did, but then now we have a call center, a relationship with a call center that we refer our students to, that for like a couple $100 a month, they can take hundreds of calls for you. And they basically, they're 24/7, take your call. So that means you can live the life with your family that you want to live, and the phone calls are coming in. And for $200, you have professional people taking these phone calls all day long, which is pretty much amazing. I mean, if you hire somebody, it costs you $2,000, and that person takes phone calls when they come in and sit idle when nothing comes in. But here, because they do it for hundreds of companies, they're just it's much cheaper. And then the second kind of letter, and then once we have that, we do value analysis and we send an offer out. The second way to do this is what's called a blind offer, where you basically do canvas an area, and you basically pick 1,000 properties. Ideally, they should be kind of like similar in style, and like a flat area, not like this where every lot is different, but a flat area, all similar size, all similar valuation. And then you can say, well, they're all kind of worth $30,000. Let me go make a $5,000 offer on every single one of them. And then your letter goes out with an actual offer included. Okay. And if people accept it or don't accept it, or call you back to renegotiate. Those are the two ways that we typically go about that.
And do you guys do any study or research on which one gets more of a contact point? Like which one gets more of a response, do you think?
So the neutral letter with asking them to call us back gets a way higher response rate, and ultimately also gets a higher acceptance rate. So it's the better way to go. So what we do is we use them as 1-2 punch kind of ways. We first use the neutral letter to discover, to get a feeling about the area, because also when these sellers call you, they tell you a lot about the area, and the area might not be where you live. I mean, we got a student that lives in New Hampshire that does deals in Alaska. So he loves Alaska. He has been there on vacation a few times, but other than that, he knows nothing about that area. So now he sends out letters over there, and people call him back, and they're like, oh yeah, my grandmother gave me that lot, and she used to live up there, and I visited many times, but from my understanding, it's XYZ, it's outside of that. They tell you what's around, they tell you if there's any economic development and other things like that happening. And so it gives you good information of what's going on. But then you make your offers, you get deals accepted. But then what we sometimes do is, like, if you come across an area, let's say where you can buy properties, or you can put them on account, you can get deals for $10,000 a pop, and you can sell them for $40,000, and you have a bidding war going on for your properties. And there's many areas like that out there where they're highly desirable, highly attractive, and you pick them up, you pick up 2-3 lots for $10,000 each, and you put them up for $35,000, and there's actually people bidding each other up, and it goes to $40,000, and one gets it at 40, but 10 others don't get it. Guess what? Go right back to that area. Yeah. And in that case, you know what you can get them. You know what you can sell them for, and go and set a bunch of blind offers for $15,000 or $18,000, because if you can sell them for $35,000, you're still making $15,000 to $20,000 on a deal. And that's good in my book. So then instead of just sending out neutral letters and talking to them, you just blanket that area with then the blind offers, and you get another 5 accepted. Because the blind offers get accepted if you hit the price right. And that's the key difference. Like when you do a blind offer, you might be off in the evaluation, or you might be off in your prices. And that's why initially you might get almost nothing accepted. That's why you use the neutral letter first with a request to call us, because it helps us understand what the market there looks like, and helps us really dial in and make sure we make the right offers that get accepted. But once we know the area really well, we then often switch to blind offers, because now we know exactly what to offer that gets us deals.
Yeah, and it's very important to know the market of what you're doing. So,
Yeah.
like you said, going in with that neutral offer just to open up a conversation with someone in that market. That's saving
Right.
you time from going to see it. Plus, they've got how many decades of knowledge of that little area. I would just say make sure you verify what's being said because
Oh, of
everybody's
course. Yeah,
story in
yeah.
the area is a little bit different. So just make sure you do your own due diligence on it. But there's nobody better that's going to tell you about the area than the person that lives there and has lived there and their parents have lived there to what's going on and what the culture is or the economic status, what developments are out there, like what's on the horizon for that area. People living there are going to help you with that.
Yeah. Now, typically we focus on people that don't live right in the area, but still a lot of them know they have a general understanding of what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you target areas now that let's say you've done a deal on, so you know it, so that's more of a target for you, or do you guys like to spread and just see where it takes you?
When we go into a new county, what we typically do is we take a sample of the county. So we go in and get, let's say, 750 or 1,000 names in that county. We simply, based on our criteria, we sort them by alphabetically, and we take the first 1,000 because the assumption is that not all people whose last name starts with A live in the same corner of the county, right? So they're all spread around.
Yeah.
And because if you do it by property, then you end up with all the properties in one area. But if you sort it by name, then they're all spread around. And then we do what we send out a test mailing. And what you'll find is that you send out 1,000 letters. Let's say you get a 5% response rate, you get 50 phone calls back. You'll find that you'll get 15 phone calls all out of one exact pocket. And then you get another 10 phone calls of a second pocket and another 7 phone calls of a third pocket. So the rest of them, so now we have 32 calls, and the other remaining 18s are like spread around and all different kind of 2 here, 1 there, and just different areas.
So even though you send them to 30 pockets, it's pretty consistent where you get hits in one little bubble.
There's pretty much often if it's, let's say, if it's and by the way, the kind of properties we focus on is 3 kinds of properties. So the first kind of property is infill lots. Now, what I just said does not apply to infill lots. Obviously, infill lots is like you think of a street, 35 houses, 1 empty lot. Well, there's no pockets. I mean, if you want to focus on infill lots, you focus on a bunch of infill lots and a few respond, and then you get those on a contract. Also, those you typically don't get with for 10 to 45 cents on a dollar. This is our what we typically pay for the other lots is 10 to 45 cents on a dollar. You typically might have to pay 60 cents on a dollar, but then you can turn around and sell it to a builder for 80 cents on a dollar right away. So you have a $100,000 lot, you put it under contract for 60, sell it to a builder for 80, and the builder is excited because they just got a $20,000 discount on a lot where the numbers already work at $100,000. So he just makes $20,000 higher profit when that house is done. So they're excited and they buy these like this in this market today, even with house prices going down a little bit. By the way, our market has not been affected by the real estate slowdown at all. And perhaps I can explain why not either in a second. The second kind of property is what we call properties in the outskirts of town, and what we call the path of growth. So if you look outside, beyond the last development, that's where the cities keep growing. Well, if you go out there, there's a lot of land. It's not as expensive as in the city. A lot that costs $500,000 in the city might cost $50,000 out there, or $100,000 out there, or be valued at $50,000 or $100,000 out there. Further out you go, the cheaper it gets. Now that is interesting for retirees that don't have much of a budget to retire, like people who basically have no savings and have to live on Social Security. They can't really retire in the city because if rents are $2,000 and Social Security is $2,000, what are you going to do? Pay rent and not eat? So what they have to do is in droves. What they're doing is they're buying land outside of town, 10, 20, 30 miles outside of town, paying it off perhaps in monthly payments. We love selling our land with seller financing, with installment sales. They pay it off over 10 years, then they put a mobile home on there and they have a dignified retirement. The third kind of property we focus on is large acreage, what we call recreational land to go have bonfires on and go dirt bike on, and land to just enjoy, build a cabin on, bring your RV out. So basically have your own mini ranch in a way, right? So these are the 3 kinds of property. So when we talk about targeting and sending letters and things like that, so and selecting a county, let's say you picked a county that's right outside of a bigger city. So what's going to happen is there's going to be, perhaps there's a lake And around that lake, there's a whole bunch of streets and roads, but the development never truly filled up. Perhaps there's 100 houses, but there's 500 lots. So there's 400 empty lots around that lake, but you're only 45 minutes away from the city. So it's a perfect area to pick up lots and sell it to people in the city who want to have a lot on the lake, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where you find lots that's a typical pocket where when I see it on the county that there's a lake close to the city and there's some streets around it and it's not all covered. I already know I'm gonna probably get, that's one of my pockets where I'm gonna get a ton of phone calls back, and I'm excited about that because those are easy sales. Because I mean, wouldn't you want a lot close to the lake, 45 minutes away from town, that you can put an RV on there, or perhaps build a little weekend house on there? I mean, who doesn't, right?
Yeah, we actually live in lake country, so we're 45 minutes ish from Madison, Wisconsin, and we're about 30-ish minutes from Milwaukee, which is our two biggest cities. And if you want a lake property where we live, you're paying, I don't know, $500,000. I'm trying to think of like a really, really low lot.
Right, but that's in your area. I mean, you're going to Alabama, there's some places, you're going to Kentucky, you're going to Texas, you're going to there's areas where the lots are only where these lots are worth $25,000.
Right. Yeah, and you go north of here or south of here a little bit, and off of because the reason why this is a hub is we're right off the highway. So to come here from Madison to Milwaukee, which is a transit everybody takes, super easy. But if you do go off of the highway a little bit into those lake properties, you get into those properties where people do want to live there. They don't want the busyness of the city, and they like those lots. So like what you're saying, they're all out there. Once you look into, I think some people have called them like tertiary markets. They're not the city, they're not the suburbs, but they're right close nearby. But once the suburbs expand, that's where it's headed.
Exactly right. And again, there's a growing trend. We have like 70% of all Americans over the age of 50 are essentially broke. They basically have enough savings to if they're one broken car away from being broke. They're one medical bill away from being broke. They're one whatever it is, being one big major repair of something away from being broke. And that's unfortunate. That's a sad statistic, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
And inflation right now is not making it better, and it's eroding that even more. So what are they going to do? Either work until they're 80 or 90, or find a place where retirement is affordable. And that's unfortunately that. So we're providing a value-added service, because from us, here's the thing: even on seller financing, if that's a $50,000 lot in that tertiary kind of area, because it's not out in the boonies, you're still only 30 minutes away from Madison, Wisconsin. You're still only about 45 minutes away. So you can still make it into town for a ball game. You can still go into town to see your doctor. You're still going to town once a week to do all your groceries and things like that. And perhaps there's also small towns close by that you can go for dinner at night, or you can fill up your gas, you can get your car fixed and so on. So it's not like you're living in the middle of nowhere. It's just that you're not living in the city anymore. And but if this lot is around worth $50,000, we get those deals for $10,000, and we wholesale them for cash for $30,000. Or if we wholesale them for seller financing, we might wholesale them for $40,000. So they still get a little bit of a discount with a 25% down payment. Now, what's a 25% down payment of $40,000? Well, that's $10,000. That's $10,000. So we're basically getting as a down payment as much as we're paying the seller, which now allows us to do a deal without any money in our deal. So we put them under contract for 10, or for 10, we're selling it with a $10,000 down payment, and boom. And now we basically received 10, sent that 10 to the seller, and now we're collecting $300 or $400 or $500 a month in monthly payments, and life is good.
Yeah, and then, I mean, obviously we'll help somebody starting out. Obviously you're years into this, and it's not really the case that you're dealing with, but someone who is starting and doesn't have a huge nest egg to start with, like the seller financing that you're talking about in the process that you're talking about, would help somebody get into this if they don't have the large nest egg of buying a $250,000, $300,000 house that they don't have one credit to finance or two cash to buy.
Exactly. Yeah. So and the banks don't lend on that kind of land. So there you are, a 55-year-old future retiree working hard all your life, having perhaps spent money to get your kids through college, have depleted all your savings, and have a few $1,000s. Perhaps you have 10, 20, $50,000 in a 401k or something like that. And you're like, how the heck do I retire? And now you go to a bank and say, like, I want to buy this $50,000 lot. And they're going to laugh you out of the office because banks don't lend on land. Even in the city, they only give you a loan on land if you're an experienced developer and if you have a track record, if they know you. And even then, they only give you 50% of the money you need to buy that land. So and the outskirts of town, they don't lend at all. So if somebody doesn't have the money to buy that lot, what are they going to do? They have no chance of buying that thing except if they work with us. So we're providing an amazing service to even allow people to a dignified retirement. I remember one lady that lived in San Diego, was a cleaning lady. She worked cleaning houses, cleaning service. She basically made minimum wage, and she paid a $900 lot rent on her mobile home. So after paying that, she basically had about $600 left to live on for the rest of the year. And after that, she had to pay her car insurance and things. Needless to say, that lady was basically almost at starvation level, right? So it's just like no money whatsoever. Guess what? She had saved like $50 at the time on the side, and she had enough money to put, like in this case, we bought this property for $2,000. It was worth $30,000. And we sold it to her for something like $20,000 with $200 a month. And she was able to do that, and she was able to pay that off in 10 years. And then we remember her letter when she actually retired. She moved her mobile home onto that lot, and now she has a free and clear lot. She has a free and clear mobile home, and she has something like $1,000 in Social Security. She has more money to live on now than she had while she lived in San Diego and had a full-time job. Yeah. So I mean, that's beautiful. We're helping people be able to live in that. And then of course the large acreage that we're selling that to the RV crowd. Because the RV crowd, I mean, I live in Phoenix. We have north of Phoenix, 2 hours north, is an area called Flagstaff and Sedona, Arizona, and so on. And it's 7,000 feet elevation up there. So in summer, when it's 110 degrees here and the pavement is melting, it's 80 degrees over there. Yeah. So guess what happens on Friday afternoon in summer? I'm guessing everybody's going up there is a beeline. It's stop and go. It takes 3 hours to drive up there, and it's jam packed of F-350s with on the back a dirt bike quad, behind it a Airstream trailer or whatever big trailer, and things like that, or an RV with a Jeep behind it and things like that, and like expensive stuff that drives up there. So a lot of affluent people that spend a lot of money on that stuff, and they don't want to stay in an RV park. Yeah, they want to have their own 20 acres and bring their 3 buddies and their RVs with them and have a blast up there and so on. So we sell those, and those are crazy. And COVID has made this market explode beyond anything I've ever seen.
And I wanted to ask you about that because I had a question, but I feel like you're going to answer it when you talk about this, and you alluded to it. So I'm excited. You said COVID has not affected your market at all.
No, well, it has affected it, but positively. So it had affected it positively because when people were sick and were perched in their rooms, in their apartments, in their houses, they were sick and tired of being sick and tired of being in there. And they're like, what do they have access to? The internet. So they started looking, and they had a dream of buying a lot outside of town. They have a dream of buying a 20-acre parcel out in a couple of hours away from town. And now they're like, screw that. We're stuck here. I don't want to be stuck here. If I can go to the mall, if I can go to my friends, if I can go to a restaurant, then let's just grab our stuff and go out there and have some fun on the weekend. And we're away from people, so it's safe, right? With COVID and masks and so on. Yep. Let's do that stuff. So droves of people started buying land. But then and that's obviously, that you would think that has settled down right now. But there's a second development that has gone on. And that second development is that what COVID has done, it has propelled us forward by 30 years in the work from home space. Yep. Our company has been virtual for I don't know how many years. Like since 2016, we have been completely virtual, not even in office anymore. But up till COVID, perhaps 3 to 5% of people work from home. Since COVID, 30% of people work from home. Now, a lot of people are asking to come back, but even like friends of mine are attorneys, even the attorney firms don't ask them to come back full time. They basically say, here's your office, come back when you want to, work from home when you want to. So they're coming back 2 days a week, 3 days a week, they're still at home. Now that gives you flexibility. And if you 100% work from home, you can live anywhere you want. What's happening is that a lot of people don't want to live in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo in San Francisco and pay $5,000 for that. Right? They don't want to live in the same place in New York and pay $7,000 for it. They don't want to live in the same place in Chicago and pay thousands of dollars for it. They're moving. There's a lot of people that want more space, very simply. So they're buying the 3 acres outside of town, moving into the town, renting something, building a house there, and then a year or two later, move into the house on 3 or 5 acres. They're buying the 20 acres and buying an RV, and because now there's also satellite internet, right, that Elon Musk put up there, that you can now have internet access pretty much anywhere in the country. Starlink. With Starlink, you pay a fee, and you can be out in the countryside of Wisconsin where there's no cell phone reception, and you can still work from there, right? And so on. So as a result, there's this movement towards the land because people can now live where they want, and not everyone wants a piece of land, but a lot of people do. If 1 out of 10, if it's just 10% of the people that now can live anywhere want a piece of land, think about it's 30% of the United States now can work from anywhere. That's 60 million people or 90 million people. 90 million people. That's like 45 million households. If 10% of them, or even 5% of them, want a piece of land, it just put 2.5 million buyers into the market that are looking for land. And that's not going to go away. It doesn't matter what happens in houses. Houses are dependent on interest rates. We are not. Because again, people buy this cash. And even doing, like for the last 20 years, the interest rates that we have been charging for people to buy from us is anywhere between 8% if they put down a lot, and all the way up to 15% if they don't put down a lot of earnest money, they put down a lot of down payment. So we're already used to double digits. Our buyers are already used to double digit interest rates. Everyone in our industry charges 13, 14%, and which is fair, by the way, because a bank would also charge you like 8 to 10%. They only give you half the money you need. In our case, we give them 90% of the money. We only give them do like a 10% or 20% down payment. So we would give them what's called 80 or 90% loan to values. And with that, the interest rate goes up. So 13% interest rate is normal. And nobody complains about it. Nobody even says anything about it. So it's a very normal kind of world. And again, with that said, they're coming. There's millions of buyers in the market. And again, the house market is going down because interest rates are high. The land market keeps going higher and is on fire because all these people want to buy land, and we are not interest rate dependent.
I mean, development is going to happen, and they need to develop on land. So you guys are pretty well, because development will keep going and they need to buy more land. What I'm curious to see, because from my knowledge, mobile home parks, you can't develop any more of them. Like what are left are what we have. And someone might fact check me on that one, but I'm interested to see, because of the theme of everybody working from home. I mean, my sister lives down the street. She works in California, and my brother-in-law works in Baltimore.
There we go.
But they live 2 minutes from me. So with that phenomenon coming on, I'm interested to see how the big parcels of land, how those can be changed into I don't know if mobile homes will ever come back, but those tiny homes, like those are getting bigger. If people start making like little subdivisions of tiny homes because it's affordable living, they don't want to live in the city. I'm interested. I don't know. Have you heard of anything coming with the tiny home development on these land parcels?
Yes. So some of our students, and some of our coaches in our organization, we have 16 master coaches that came through our program, now flip between 30 and 100 pieces of land a year, and now contribute time back to bring the next generation up and coach in our organization. Some of them are actually putting tiny homes and mobile homes and things on individual lots. So while you can't, you're right, most counties and most cities don't want you to develop mobile home parks anymore. They still allow you to take individual lots that with the zoning allow a mobile home, and actually put one mobile home at a time on each lot, or one tiny home at a time on each lot. And I can think of multiple of our coaches that actually do that. They basically buy these lots. In that case, they don't wholesale them. They actually physically buy them, sometimes with their own money, sometimes they bring a money partner in. Then they work with the city, put in the improvements for it, and they work with a mobile home dealership in the area and put the mobile home on there, and then have the mobile home dealership sell that lot for them. And instead of making 20 grand on the lot, now they're making 60 or 80 grand, because its combination is worth so much more. So yes, that's definitely a path that is being pursued.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that develops a little bit more. Because as a builder, I know that the price of the land that you get is your step one. Like if your land is overpriced, you are going to be a little bit underwater as you start the project. So, and my first deal was actually on a mailer as well. It was a neutral mailer, as you probably categorize them. New to it, I had no idea what I was doing. Sent out a mailer, a guy called and was like, yeah, it's my lake house, I don't use it anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, what would you sell it for? And he's like, I don't know, what is it worth? And I was like, I feel bad making an offer. And he threw out an offer and we accepted. There was no like negotiation, and I was kind of in shock of how like easy this was. I thought there was like a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts in the beginning. Like obviously it got complicated, but to just simply ask somebody that I have no idea, like how you started, and now you've built up a team, and you're now pretty much across the country in terms of offices, I'll say. So yeah, keep going. It's awesome to see. And like I said, I've heard of one other person do it, so I'm glad that I actually got to talk to you about it. So I know we only have 5 minutes left, and for the 5 minutes, is there anything that you would tell someone starting out who's not really into any specific thing of real estate, but just heard the podcast and is into land? Yeah. What would you tell them in terms of their journey getting started or their process?
Well, first of all, about land is that it's still work. I mean, obviously, I mean, it's simpler because you don't have to deal with tenants, toilets, and termites. No repairs, no contractors, no all the things that you deal with, right? But we don't deal with. Not saying that what you do doesn't work. Of course, obviously it works. I have friends with guys that flip 300 houses a year and do all this kind of stuff. But obviously, if you're into land, yeah, remember there's still process to do. It's just a simpler process. The second thing I would want to say is, if you're not decided on what you want to do, that's okay. Go put your feelers into a whole bunch of different things, because at the end of the day, just like we talked at the beginning, you don't want to be getting into something that then you realize is not really what you want to do. You want to get something, like get excited about something, then study it a little bit, and then check with some people to get some references and things like that. And we have a Facebook group called Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Facebook group that you can join for free, and just check around and talk to people and direct message people and see how they're doing and what their experience is and how they love it and so on. What I would say is, basically, at the end of the day, though, design your perfect life. Like put on the list is like, how would you like to live your life? And then measure any opportunity by that, right? By that, because like we like to I'm the dad that goes with my daughter to school, and I'm the dad that volunteers and things like that, because I don't need to meet with sellers. I don't need to sit in kitchen tables and negotiate deals. I don't need to meet with contractors. We send our offers in writing, right? We send we have a call center take our phone calls on that neutral letter. So we really can, when I make offers is when I decide to make offers. If I want to make offers, when we have guests and friends over, and let's say for dinner, and they leave at 9 p.m. and I want to make offers, I can make my offers at 9 p.m. at night. Like I can do them whenever the heck I want to do them. We spend a month in Hawaii. We have a place there now. We spend a month in Hawaii, and a couple times during that month, we make offers. We only make offers once a week, for example. So you can design your business with what we do around your life, and with many other businesses you can't, or it's much harder. You need to have much larger scale to do that. So think about what your business, how you want your business to look like, what you're really excited about. Some people love seeing something being built, right? That's great. That's beautiful. to me, it doesn't matter. I just want to make money when I flip a piece of land. And if I can be at home and read a book or be in school with my daughter and help her with stuff, then even better. I love it just as much.
Yeah, it's so true. That's well said. And for those people that are getting into it and have questions, is there any way that they can get a hold of you? I know you mentioned the Facebook group. Is that the best way?
They can go. Well, obviously, I'm on Facebook too, Jack Bosch. They can send me a direct message on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, on TikTok even. So it's all Jack Bosch is everywhere, or Jack.Bosch, I think, in Instagram and TikTok. Other than that, you can also go to Land Profit Fun, like having fun kind of thing, landprofitfun.com. And there you get to see a bunch of free videos and other things about us.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely be reaching out on Facebook at least, because if you got anything going on in the Wisconsin area, I'm all ears. I haven't crossed my border yet. I stay within the state of Wisconsin still, but hopefully
that's fine.
We'll go one and then we'll see where it heads.
All right.
But I know that we are out of time. I want to appreciate, thank you so much for coming on. This was something that I've never been able to find out information on. So thank you very much. Hopefully the audience got some knowledge on it too. And I wish you the best. Hopefully you keep going.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Thanks.
We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.